Hello, my name is Grant Imahara, and it is 11:03 on Thursday, April 1st.
He was one. Studios put their trust in him as one of only 3 people in America who could touch the real R2-D2. Behind the scenes of Mythbusters, he made the impossible possible. Though something very bad was growing in his head while he was having dinner with his fiancée in July 2020. He felt dizzy all of a sudden. Within hours, doctors were fighting to save him after 3 surgeries. His family had to make an awful choice. This is what really happened. Grant Imahara was born on October 23, 1970, in L.A. His mother Carolyn raised him by herself during hard times. Work 12 hours a day at an accounting firm and study business at night, even when she was busy. She turned down a better job offer in San Francisco because she thought the schools in Los Angeles were better. For Grant, they lived in a small apartment with 2 bedrooms. Carolyn, she turned their dining room into a study space and helped him learn for 3 hours every night instead of giving him toys. Science kits. At just $5, one of those Radio Shack kits set everything off. When Grant was 12, he started taking things apart. In just 1 year, he did it over 100 times. It took him 38 appliances to remember every screw and wire in them. He didn't write anything down. His head. He once took the family's brand new microwave apart and found his mother told the company, which then recalled 1,200 units. That's how smart he was. There were risks when he was 6 and shocked himself badly while playing. His heart stopped when he heard the radio. He didn't tell his mother because he didn't want her to know. Take away his tools, and everything changed. On May 28, 1977, Grant, who was 7 years old at the time, went to the theater to see Star Wars. He sat there for 2 hours. Following that, he stayed still and only spoke in robot beeps, not English. He missed 17 days of school that summer to build an R2-D2 out of scrap metal. Parts he found in trash cans. By August, he had over 600. He slept very little because he kept a flashlight under his pillow. Blanket to read college-level books. He even changed the wiring in his school's PA system to play the Star Wars theme. It worked better after he was stopped. Anyway, things didn't slow down for Grant when he started at Crestview Prep in 1984. Got a full scholarship when he was 14 and called out a physics teacher in class. By his second year, he wasn't allowed to go to school science fairs because judges thought his projects were fake. In 1986, he made a robot named Murphy out of parts from it had old Commodore 64s and game consoles that it could move around the school by itself. That kind of robot wasn't common back then, but there was a price he had to pay. He got carpal tunnel early because he burned his hands soldering when he was 16. Every day, they spend a few minutes building robots in the science closet instead of going to PE. One teacher knew about it and didn't say anything about it. By the time he graduated, he had built 13 while he was at USC. Most of his classmates hadn't even passed geometry, let alone robotics. He wanted to be an engineer in the late 1980s, but by 1992 he had reached a dead end. Went to too many classes and got tired of them. He even thought about switching to. He loved movies and stories so much that he thought about quitting engineering and going to work as a screenwriter. When he went to school and asked about changing his major, they told him it would be hard. He met Tomlinson Holman, who made the well-known THX sound system. Grant was amazed at the moment he made the brave choice to be Holman's friend. As a volunteer, which meant cleaning up an office that was a mess and full of papers from professional groups like SMPT&E, it wasn't fancy, but it brought something back inside him, and he saw how engineering could be used. Holman changed his life after 1 year of volunteering by becoming a. Through him, Grant got an internship at THX right after high school in 1993. After college, that internship turned into a full-time job, and I joined THX as a licensing engineer. He checked out loudspeakers and other audio gear. He paid a lot of money to make sure they met all the requirements for THX certification. Paying close attention to every detail of how a speaker dealt with stress and how well it did it, how stable the sound was at different frequencies, that became his world. But it wasn't just lab work. Sometimes he'd dress up as C-3PO for promotional events. Lucasfilm needed someone to help them brand Star Wars, and Grant said even though it seemed like a small thing at the time, it showed where he was going. While Grant was alive, from 1993 to 1996, he helped make THX sound standards. In different theaters, he set up ways to test speaker arrays and figured out how to make sure that every theater had the same THX sound experience. He brands of audio gear and worked with sellers to meet strict technical guidelines. Hundreds of theaters and dozens of consumer goods got the THX stamp because of his attention to detail. Imahara's path to industrial light and magic wasn't easy, but it wasn't impossible either. Like most people, he started at Lucasfilm's THX division after getting his engineering degree from USC in 1993. At THX, he worked on stress testing audio. His goal wasn't to get his gear to meet THX standards. In 1996, he took a risky step instead. When he switched to ILM's model shop, everything changed. He wasn't hired just to play around with models. Grant came in with a mind made for systems and circuits. And ILM saw something unique. Even though most of the model makers were from backgrounds in art or mechanics, Grant's edge was engineering. Over 9 years, he worked on movies like The Matrix and Star Wars Episodes 1, 2, and 3. Follow-ups and The Lost World, Jurassic Park. It was his job to plan the park's interior. Parts, lights, motors, props, or anything else that could move or glow. Their journey with R2-D2 didn't begin in the bright lights of Hollywood or with a big break. It began in the quiet Skywalker Ranch in the mid-1990s, when Grant was only a behind-the-scenes. A skilled engineer works with Lucasfilm's archive team, but they were interested in his work because it stood out and showed how much he knew about electronics. Soon, he was asked to improve the old R2-D2s that were kept at Lucasfilm. In the archives, that small task quickly turned into a moment that changed her life. Grant became one of only 3 people in a very small group who joined a club. The whole of the United States is officially allowed to use R2-D2 at live events and commercials. Other people were Don Bees and Nelson Hull. These 3 people would become the whenever the droid didn't work, even on big projects like Star Wars Episode 1, the team would fix it. Up on the London set of Lucasfilm, Rick McClum, the producer, got in touch with ILM, not just any technicians, to build a new R2-D2 from them. It all began with scratch, and Grant was right in the middle of it by 1999. Was in full swing, and Grant was in charge of rebuilding the droid. The older R2-D2s always had problems. They got stuck on tracks, got too hot, and broke down in the middle of takes. Grant's ideas were smart and easy to understand. He replaced the small wheels with bigger ones that worked better on smooth floors and then added a motor from an electric wheelchair to it. He also rewired the whole power system and radio controls to make them easier to use. He did it himself, and it worked. R2 was now more reliable and simpler too. When he was in charge of Attack of the Clones, Control, Grant got the best new features. Upgrading all 12 R2-D2 units, the dome lights were one of the most important changes. Flashing logic screens, he got rid of the old, broken-down H-halogen system and changed it out for custom-built LED lights. These lights were very small and precise. It is powered by a unique microcontroller he made for another movie. Galaxy Quest. Grant knew how to use what he had already done to make new magic on set. Wasn't easy. The scenes with Naboo in The Phantom Menace were especially hard. The floors were bumpy and the decor was fancy, and the R2s weren't made to handle that. From the beginning of the original trilogy on, the droids had always had trouble with rough surfaces. Grant's job was easier because he could make it snow so that the drive belts wouldn't get stuck. McCallum said that all the R2 units were more important than ever for Episode 2. Need a complete makeover. Grant took charge of the electronics, and Nelson Hall take care of the paint and appearance, such as bringing back R2's signature blue color. Grant wasn't just there in the background when Attack of the Clones began. While filming in Sydney, McCallum gave Grant even more responsibility. He was in charge of R2 on the set and also kept an eye on Anthony Daniels, who was playing C-3PO. How much the team believed in his skills outside of work, Grant kept building. In 2000, he got together with Adam Savage, Fawn Davis, and other ILM friends. Decided to make their own copies of R2-D2, even though they could use the real one. Thing they never copied any official parts from, they made each one by hand. Scratch. Out of respect for how hard the franchise Grant worked to do, getting things right set him apart. It wasn't just about fans, it was about his reputation for honesty, and technical skill only grew from there. For Episode 2, he helped make R2 battery packs that can be changed quickly. These new packs fixed a big problem. Old batteries were heavy, took a long time to charge, and didn't always work. The quick swap packs, it was a huge win for R2 because it meant they could stay on set longer with less downtime. After Star Wars, Grant stayed close to R2 and made his own exact copy. Using bubbly epoxy to copy a strange design detail inside the dome that looked, he paid attention to things other people wouldn't even notice, even though they were messy. Wasn't just an engineer who worked behind the scenes, he was one of only 3 people who, when something went wrong, Lucasfilms officially called an R2 technician. During Episode 2, producers called him by name, and he ran the whole show. While he worked on improving R2's electronics, his teammate fixed up its looks. By 1999, every little thing was important, like fixing the wrong shade of blue in Episode 1 and making it the right color again. Grant's fame grew so quickly that Galaxy made him their chief model maker. 3 years after starting at ILM, he was now in charge of one of its most. He worked as a high-profile model and built light systems for the NEA Protector spaceship with circuit boards that made it shimmer realistically. Effects. His engineering skills were finally coming together with movie magic, and he wasn't done showing what he could do on the team. He made a robot called Dead Blow for and competed in BattleBots on that. Little robot fought in 17 matches and won 10 of them, right? Machine helped him make toys, fans, and even a book out of his work. Grant knew how to take his ideas outside of the studio, as shown in his 2003 book Besides Movies and Robots. In 2008, he helped bring the company had to find one of the most famous mascots of all time, the Energizer Bunny. Better animatronics, so Grant made them from scratch. He planned the circuit boards. They could start and stop their drums with 8-bit chips and radio controls. Each one had 44 AA batteries that let them wave their arms and twirl their drumsticks when told to. Inside, just to show that Energizer meant what they said when they said, "keeps going and going," Grant didn't just build during video shoots, he ran the systems and fed the bunnies himself. It was just a smart tech trick that showed Grant could use his skills anywhere of the entertainment world, from hit movies to TV shows about robots. He brought precision, creativity, and a lot of energy to battles and even battery commercials. It was clear that he wasn't just making models, he was also solving problems. Getting things better. In 2005, something changed. While the build team lost Scotty Chapman, they gained something even better. Bigger. Grant Imahara wasn't just a replacement, he was a Grant came in with a sharp mind and a degree in electrical engineering. From USC and worked for years at Lucasfilms. Industrial Light and Magic wasn't new to the team, he had worked with Adam Savage before. And Tori Belly before, and in the BattleBots, he met Jamie Heeman. Adam once said, "Grant was the only one of us who had a degree in what we were doing, and it was clear that his arrival raised the bar right away." Grant was known as the "geek of the build" for 9 years and more than 200 episodes. Team, not as an insult but as a badge of honor for how well he filled in with his technical skills. Together, Kay's art and Tori's builds made them a great trio, but there were times when Grant got his hands dirty as well as his brains. In a 2009 episode, the team really did decide to see if ear wax could work as candle wax based on Shrek. At first, it seemed funny, but then the scary part started. The doctor gave them a jar full of ear wax from hundreds of patients. It was Grant's job to heat it up, but as soon as it melted, an awful smell filled the air. The wax was infected, and the smell hit like a punch. Grant couldn't stop gagging. The video caught it, and he had, even after years had passed, he still called it the grossest thing he had ever seen. Done in my life, even though there were messes and close calls, Grant always came back to. Besides Mythbusters, what he loved most were robots. He used to compete on BattleBots. With a robot named Dead Blow, a hammer-wielding machine that hits quickly, he didn't build Blendo, Jamie and Adam did. It's a scary spinning thing. The robot was so dangerous that it was banned after only 2 games, but Grant made his mark. In his own unique way, he built an skeleton that moves and plays a part on The Late Late Show with Craig Ferguson. Grant didn't slow down after leaving Mythbusters in 2014. He teamed up with Disney to help make Stickman, a cutting-edge robot project. It was the basis for the Stuntronics robots that now flip through the air at Disney theme parks, but Grant is most proud of what he did. The project wasn't for TV or theme parks. He worked on it right before he died in 2020. Months making a Baby Yoda robot that looks just like the real thing, not for fun or profit but to make kids smile at children's hospitals when they need it the most. Grant also had some very close calls on set that were much more dangerous than earwax. In an episode from 2011, the team made a copy of the flying guillotine weapon from old Chinese stories. Grant was in charge of setting up the device. Suddenly, 3/4 of the blades were ready to be armed, and Grant walked right in. In the danger zone, the blade cut through his shirt almost to his stomach. He never touched it again without a thick leather apron on after that. A reminder of how real the risks were on a show that often walked the line between being interesting and being dangerous. His personal life stayed mostly out of the public eye while his career was in the spotlight. He had been seeing costume designer Jennifer Newman for a long time. On December 7, 2016, at a surprise birthday party. Party turned into something more. Grant got down on one knee and asked her to marry him. The 1.56-carat ring was old and cost him about. Jennifer's answer to $20,000. Fuck yeah, that was them raw, real and deeply in a sad turn of events. Jennifer was with him when he died in July. November 11, 2020. They were having dinner when Grant felt dizzy, weak, and she called for help around 9 p.m. when he stopped responding to her. And paramedics rushed him to the hospital. At first, doctors thought they could save him. He had a brain aneurysm, and the first surgery went well. He stayed unconscious for a second surgery, but things got worse as doctors got ready for a third surgery. They saw that the damage was too great. Grant was only 49 years old when he died. He lost his life on July 13, 2020, and his death shook the scientific community. Even in his last year, Grant wasn't just making machines for the entertainment world. He was making people happy, so he spent 3 months making an animatronic Baby Yoda that did everything he had planned. Wrote the code and even 3D printed the parts himself, but it wasn't for money or TV. To make kids happy, he wanted to take it to hospitals for kids. Grant said that's how he saw his tools, as ways to help other people feel better. Also taught robotics to high school students years later. Those same kids, they also became mentors, and his influence is still growing. Grant's Japanese-American roots were a big part of who he was. He was born in Los Angeles on October 23, 1970. It was his mother Carolyn who raised him. His middle name, Masaru, means victory in Japanese. He looked great in it, and his cultural values of care, precision, and quiet strength shone through. He wasn't up in every project when he was on Mythbusters from 2005 to 2014. He was just busting myths and showing Asian Americans that they could be engineers, creators, and movie stars. He fixed R2-D2's electronics, redesigned the Energizer Bunny, and broke all the rules along the way. Give Imahara time on Mythbusters. Fans were shocked because he had been a big part of for 9 years. Build team with Tori Belly and Carrie Byron, but things changed behind the scenes because Discovery Channel was taking away the show.